Hi everyone today. Are you suffering with anxiety or feeling like a sense of dread for no reason? Are you feeling panicky at times? Do you have a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder or panic disorder? Do you know you're just generally really anxious? I suffered with anxiety my whole life, basically. Um, it was really intense for me as a teenager and in my 20s. And I remember, going out to walk my dog when I was a student at McGill University, and I was anxious about walking too far from where I lived. It didn't make any sense. And I remember knowing that and being like, how come I'm scared to walk an extra block? I just want to go home. And it was like something just didn't feel right inside. And it would kind of like come and go. It wasn't always there in that way, but there was always some type of general anxiety that made no sense. So I'm no foreigner to anxiety. Definitely we can feel anxious about specific circumstances, right? Some people feel anxious about like social settings or being around people and having to speak or public speaking. And it can get also really intense during those circumstances. But I think, and that's really bothersome. But it's also really disturbing when you feel anxious and you don't know why. Like you don't even have a reason, right? That's really unsettling for people. It's always nice when we can blame it on something. So my story was that ever since a teenager, I would have anxiety for no reason. And I've come to learn a lot about that as I've gotten older. And thankfully, I don't feel that way at all to the same extent. I think I feel appropriate and normal anxiety, and I'm in tune with myself. So when it comes up, I'm able to kind of dig deeper, and I have tools now to help me figure out what that underlying cause is of anxiety. But what I know from my life experience and being a women's health doctor working with hormones is that we can have an underlying sense of anxiety or dread or even depression because of stuff that our body is dealing with inside. And it doesn't make sense to our logical mind because maybe our life is great, maybe there isn't any stress, but we still feel this way. But you can imagine if there's a stressful environment in your body, let's say your liver is working really hard to detoxify you, or your adrenals are working really hard to keep your balance, and your body's just working hard, or maybe you're missing vitamins and it's hard for your body to make the right neurotransmitters, you're gonna feel that, and it's gonna show up in a way that you don't necessarily recognize. It might show up as you just feeling anxious. So my point in saying that is that there's a lot we can do to help improve the environment in our body so that we won't feel anxious. So for example, if you're deficient in vitamin B12 or vitamin B6 or vitamin B3 or even folic acid, which is another vitamin, or pantothenic acid, which I believe is B5, you can actually have anxiety as a result, because all of those B vitamins are necessary for making hormones, for making neurotransmitters, for helping your body detoxify. We're talking like foundation level things can be missing in your body that will show up as you feeling anxious, and it is solvable. And by the way, there's a field of medicine called orthomolecular medicine that helps to treat mental health disorders using vitamins and supplements to help restore the raw material so that the body can produce what it needs to produce. Another thing that can cause anxiety is a progesterone deficiency or a relative estrogen dominance. So if you're a woman and you are having like really heavy periods and PMS, you might have an imbalance. It's not a medical diagnosis. It's not something your regular doctor would look for or talk to you about, because we're not taught about that in medical school. But it's something that an alternative practitioner is trained to look for. And progesterone, when you don't have enough of it, your brain is missing it. And progesterone is they call it anxiolytic, meaning it cuts anxiety. It reduces anxiety. So if you're progesterone deficient each month, which, funny enough, I definitely was when I was in my 20s suffering with anxiety. I just didn't know about this hormone field. I was actually on the birth control pill, which for some people can make anxiety worse. But anyways, if you're progesterone deficient or relatively abundant in estrogen and it's not balanced properly, your brain might actually have anxiety. So funny enough, treating with progesterone or balancing your hormones, even just for the second half of the month when the imbalance is present, affects the whole month. So for me, looking back into my 20s, I should have been on B complex vitamins. I should have been taking maybe some extra B12 now that I know my own genetics and my own levels. And a natural progesterone cream may have been really helpful. So my message to you today is if you're feeling something that you don't understand, that doesn't make sense, you should know that there is a cause for it, and there's probably something you can do about it if you dig deeper. It's always about digging deeper, you know? So I always talk in different videos, I'll talk about the 3 layers of our health, right? We have the physical things that we can do, which include medications or vitamins. But if you go deeper, you also have like our thoughts, right? Our thoughts and our emotions and our subconscious beliefs. And all of that plays a role. You know, just a quick example, if I had a subconscious fear of something that I wasn't even consciously aware of, that might drive some anxiety, right? So the more aware I am of what's happening in my body, what needs balancing, and what's happening in my subconscious and what needs addressing, then I can actually heal from the root, right? And that's the best way to eradicate anxiety. So anyone today who's listening, if you're suffering with anxiety and you haven't done some of the things I've mentioned, or you haven't explored integrative medicine or alternative medicine, and getting yourself some support beyond just you know, conventional therapy or medication, you might want to consider that, because there's a whole toolbox that's ready and waiting for you. Anyways, I hope that helps, and have a wonderful day.